Well, ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much for watching the John Woodard Show. Today we have the honor and privilege of interviewing Raynor and Hal James of the Coastal Carolina Taxpayers Association, true patriots in every sense of the word. They've been working very hard in Craven County. They're a fixture down there with everything they've been doing politically, and we're glad to have them to talk with us today. How are you folks doing this morning?
Doing well, John.
Well, actually, it's afternoon now, isn't it?
Yeah, it sure is.
Time flies when you have fun.
I'd like to add one more thing to what you just said. We're actually pretty active in about 6 different counties now. We have members, as you know, from Carteret County, and we certainly have members from Beaufort County and Pamlico and Loudoun County. We seem to have, in the last couple of years, expanded our outreach considerably.
Well, I was going to ask you about that because, that's what I hear, that, while you're in Craven County, it's just like us starting out here in Elizabeth City, and it's blossomed, and we're expanding, the same way you have been. So, tell me about what when you all started this, what was the goal that you were trying to achieve?
Well, Raynor and I didn't actually start it. We've been active now for quite some time.
It's 2009.
2009, right. It's kind of an interesting story. When we first moved to North Carolina, we were down at the Croker Festival down in Oriental.
Yes.
And the big, tall, handsome guy walked up to us and he said, have you all registered to vote? And we said, no, we just got into North Carolina.
It's on the list.
It's on the list of things to get accomplished. He said, well, are you going to register as a Republican or a Democrat or unaffiliated or what? And I said, well, you have to tell people, where I came from. I'm originally from North Carolina, but spent most of my adult life up in Virginia. And of course, I was in the Army, so we moved around a little bit, but not as much as a lot of people that do. We were fortunate in that regard. But I said, well, given those choices, I would have to pick Republican. He said, right this way. He signed us up.
It was Norm Sanderson.
It was Norm Sanderson. And then we went to a tea party down in Morehead City. There was about 2,000 people there because tea parties were really hot at that time. And then we got all excited about it and met some people. And they said, why aren't you going to the one up in Craven County? I said, didn't know there was one. Oh, yeah. Then they described it. And so we found out how to go there. And we went to a meeting. Well, sure enough, it was Norm and Michael Speciale. Michael was the chairman and Norman was the vice chairman. And we started having meetings. Since that time, Raynor and I each served as chairman. Rick Hopkins is the current chairman. We have in our bylaws that you can't serve more than 2 consecutive years as a chairman. You can be reelected, but I don't think so far we've had anybody actually reelected. We like to try to spread that around.
Yeah, Rick has been.
Rick has been, that's right. The one that's currently, he's been the chairman before 2 sessions, and he's been reelected for the 2nd term this time. And Raynor and I are both active in it. My job is vice chairman. I tell you what, I think I'd rather be the chairman than the vice chairman.
Yeah, the vice chairman's the one who gets to do all the work, right?
You guessed it. You guessed it.
Setting up programs and that flowing. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I guess that pretty well covered it, Ray. You want to add some things?
I do. You asked about goals. In the beginning, it was very general and very basic. Stuff like adherence to the Constitution, lower taxes, smaller government, more freedoms, and so on. Espousing the free enterprise system and less regulation on businesses and so on. We haven't moved away from that. But in the very recent past, our government, such as it is, I consider the federal government largely fraudulent at this point, has moved away from it. And so we have listed some items we feel like we need to work within our own state Until we have election integrity, we don't have a government that's with the consent of the governed. One of a very basic precept. So we want to pick up the pace on trips to the General Assembly and work on trying to get them to do things that are drastic changes in terms of voting. We'd like to see voting on election day only, make it a state holiday, but only paper ballots, only hand counting, get rid of the blasted machines that run software that can add, subtract, and fractionalize a vote. That's just, we don't have Dominion machines, but we do use the software that has been used in the 6 infamous states to finagle the election and make it appear someone won who did not nationally. And also another area that we're really concerned about is the schools. Our government schools are cesspools, frankly.
Why don't you tell us how you really feel, Raynor?
I'm trying to. Anyhow, we want the curriculum to be mainly academics rather than mainly social justice. And that is, the phrase is taken to mean the exact opposite of what it sounds as if it means. To stop well, let me go to the positive. To teach reading, writing, and arithmetic, to teach our founding history and all history truly, not the rewritten version. To stick pretty much with academic subjects coming from the way it really happened and a basically Judeo-Christian view, but leave the details of religion, sexuality, personal items with students' parents where they belong. And it's going to take a while to clean up this mess. So in the interim, provide vouchers that follow the student, whether they're in government schools, charter schools, private schools, religious schools, home schools, enable the parents to make their own choices for their own children. There's nobody cares more about a child than his or her.
There are so many educational opportunities out there, and we don't have. I was just talking to Catherine Truitt yesterday, and she's only a couple weeks into the new job. People think that the superintendent of public instruction has a great deal more power than what they actually have. They answer to a board of education. So but nevertheless, I talked to her, and it was, she's just getting her feet on the ground. But we don't have a union. But we've got the next best thing.
Yeah, we don't call it a union.
It's just a union by another name. It's a union by another name.
Yeah.
State Board of Education Board of Directors is a union by another name.
Yeah.
So, what in the world is going on with these teachers sitting at home getting paid and not working, for Pete's sake?
That's another thing we want. We want to see the schools opened. The statistics are that young people, particularly children, don't get the Chi-Com virus very often.
On that subject, we were talking to Keith Kidwell recently, and he said he was making a strong point of the General Assembly being called into session if the governor declares a national state emergency within a few days, and trying to curtail some of the powers that he has used, presumed to have that he shouldn't have. Another thing that Raynor reminded me of while she was talking was I was listening to the radio as I was driving along one day recently, and it was said that if you were really angry about the restrictions on the coronavirus, if you were really angry about the possibility of your weapons and firearms of self-protection, Second Amendment rights being taken away, then you were going to fall into a category that they considered a person of interest to the Homeland Security agents. And I thought, oh my Lord, if that's anywhere near true, we're entering a really dangerous police state.
Well, we already have. The Biden administration has already put forward an executive order to require people to register their guns and pay a $200 tax on those on AK-47 on AR-15s. That's not on handguns, but that, you know, it's like the camel's nose. Once you get started, you can't stop. And if you give a politician an inch, he'll take a mile. He may not do it right away, but but he'll get there. Yeah. So this is what everybody's concerned about. I don't have an AR-15 in my house, but I've got a 12 gauge pump and a 40 caliber Glock, and I know how to use them.
Yeah,
good.
Yeah, I've got a 12 gauge shotgun, 2 of them as a matter of fact, but I also have a 45 model M1911. It's a little heavy for me to carry around, so I also have a little pocket pistol to go along with that. I try to stay armed as much as I can, but you know, there's certain places like on base and military bases, believe it or not, you're not allowed to carry there. There's several places where you're not allowed to carry.
Yeah, just like down there in Florida where they had those military people killed because on a military base they weren't allowed to be armed, for God's sake.
Outrageous.
Well, there was one at Fort Hood, Texas too, right?
Yeah, same thing.
Yeah, major.
Yeah, Fort Hood's been known for that.
Yeah, and somebody asked me, well, how in the world could somebody have walked into an army, a military post or a base with an armed, with a pistol that's, or anything, rifle that's loaded, and get by with it? And I said, well, you know, they don't search every car that comes through. If you got a proper identity, and a major certainly would have, you present your proper identity, they wave you through. That's the way it works. Now, maybe I shouldn't be saying that out loud, but I think it's a crying shame that military folks, the personnel inside, have to disarm themselves. Now I'm wondering about the National Guard that were activated to go out into Washington, into those mobs in various places. And I know they're carrying weapons around, but I'm not sure they're loaded.
Well, just because they're carrying weapons doesn't mean they have any ammunition.
Exactly.
You know, when I was in the military, I went plenty of places with a shotgun or a 45, and I didn't have any ammunition in it. You know, it was all for show.
Yeah, I was on the Beltway one time, and I had my 45 pistol laying on the seat. And I didn't realize that I had slipped over into Maryland out of Virginia. And I guess I just wasn't thinking about it. So used to it being there. And a cop went by and saw it and pulled me over, took it away from me. He didn't arrest me, just took it away from me. It took me about 5 months to get it back. But eventually, I think they thought I was going to give up. But I kept trying to get it back until I got it back. Another thing I want to mention, this reminds me of it. A lot of the judges that President Trump has appointed have overturned some of these crazy things that Biden is trying to do, like the building the wall. You know, he said that he was going to put a stop to building the wall. Well, a judge down there in Texas said, "Oh no, you're not." And he made it stick.
You know, but Trump went through hell with the parade of judges that were arrayed against him on everything he tried to do, and eventually, you know, prevailed in some instances. But it's good to see that some of these judges are stepping up and you know, treating the Democrats the same. But in the end, I think that you know, it's if you're waiting for the justices like the Supreme Court to act, you're wasting your time.
They haven't done their job. So much of government has let us down. To begin with, the states that were so bad, like Pennsylvania and Wisconsin, and you know the drill, Georgia, and so on. The state legislatures didn't do their job. They should have. The Constitution provides that they will set up the structure for the election. Well, they let the attorneys general, they let the governors change in effect, change the laws so that the elections in those states weren't conducted according to the laws that the legislatures had set up. And they didn't challenge it. They didn't make you know, they could have stopped it right there if they had hopped on it.
You know,
Didn't do that. Then it went to the Supreme Court. The Supreme Court didn't do its job, wouldn't hear the case. There had been something like 80 different lawsuits filed. I think of the ones that President Trump is a plaintiff. 9 of them have been settled, 4 in his favor. They keep saying there's no evidence. Well, there is evidence. There are hundreds and hundreds of affidavits signed by people who are subject to being sued for, oh shoot, I've started to say perjuring themselves, of all kinds of terrible things done to screw the election up, including supposed mail-in ballots with not a crease in them, had never seen the inside of an envelope. Large cases, I'm sorry, large cases of ballots dragged out from under the counting tables after everybody went home. Cases.
Slow up a minute. I'd like to say a word or two.
Sorry, how about it?
There's never going to be any evidence if you're not willing to see the evidence that's right in front of you.
Absolutely.
You know, but what you believe and what you can prove in court are two different things. So if the judges, if they tell you that they use this, you don't have standing, well then you're shot down before you ever open your mouth. But if there's anything that this country needs, it's a uniform set of standards for how elections are going to be managed across the entire country.
John, no, I don't agree with you there. I'm sorry. That is really dangerous. We don't want the federal government messing in that. The business.
Oh, we sure don't.
The state legislatures is a safeguard. It's closer to the people. We can. It's easier, and I don't mean it's easy, but it's easier to do something about it if the decision-making body is closer to you.
Well,
this federal government that we have in place right now can't be trusted with anything.
You know, I wanted to say that I try to be a happy warrior, and I think that the best warriors that I've read about and know about, like General Patton, did take their breaks. You know, he would read a book sometimes in the evening, things like that. But I think on the positive side, the judgeships in District 4 and District 9 have become a lot more conservative than they once were thanks to Trump. And we've got some here in North Carolina. Judge Paul Newby being the chief judge is a huge achievement. Berger is being up there as well. I think now we've got 3 Republicans where we only have 1. Now that doesn't give us a majority out of the 7, that's for sure. But on the other hand, the chief judge, I understand, has a great deal of power because he can select the judges to hear certain cases. So if he's only going to select 3 judges, you know, he could make 2 of them conservatives if he'd like to. So I think that's a really huge step forward.
That's a huge step in the right direction.
Yeah.
And this, you know, the redistricting challenges that we're getting from the Obama Attorney General Eric Holder, they targeted this state and several others, so we've got to have a strong judiciary to maintain some equilibrium there. One of the things that Pete Benton, of course.
Oh, well,
yeah.
Yes.
And Pete is on our team, and he and Doug Gould are good friends, and in fact, I've just about finished sending a letter to all 50 state chairmen of the Republican Party.
Telling what?
About what Doug Gould told you about the stock issue. Remember what he told you?
About the what issue?
Stock issue.
Stock.
New stock change.
Selling the stock of the
Oh,
big
got you.
company.
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
I've drafted a letter, ran it by our attorneys. They felt like it was no threat to us from a legal standpoint. So I have emailed a copy of that to every Republican state party chair, all 50 of them, and asked them to forward it to their membership throughout the state. So it's only going to be a matter of time now before once I get that, let that sift through the system, that I'm going to be trying to establish a date and communicate that to everybody. For those people that want to participate in this, then there's going to be an opportunity for everybody to do it on the same day. Then the big tech won't be aware, that they won't see it coming, and they won't be able to take preventive measures. So I just finished sending the last email just about 20 minutes before, about 1:45.
That's great. That's a wonderful thing to be doing.
Excuse me.
Go ahead, honey.
Well, one other promising thing, Norm Sanderson mentioned that there is a movement afoot in the North Carolina General Assembly to make North Carolina a sanctuary state where the Second Amendment is concerned. I think that's a wonderful idea. And I think that same pattern could be used for any God-given constitutionally protected rights that the federal government tries to come against us and usurp.
I asked our Sheriff Chip Hughes here in Craven County what he would do if he felt like that his resources were being overpowered by gangs or something like that. His answer was great. He said, I would deputize every concealed carry in the county.
Who was willing.
Who was willing, that's right. And so,
well,
he would have a source of,
I was in the military just like you were. And so that's where I got my training on how to use a weapon. So I'm not afraid of that at all. But the point is that with what we're doing, I'll just show it to you right here. You can see it on TV. This is a multi-page statement of all of the Republican Party chairmen and their addresses and everything, and my notes in here about the emails email addresses I use. So with what we're talking about with Norm Sanderson, if they do that, I don't mind at all being the conduit to get that information out to the other states. Many of those states have Republican legislatures, even if they don't have Republican governors.
Yes, thank heaven.
So, yeah, that reminds me, Norm is the 8th longest staying person in the Senate right now, which will give him chairmanship of some very important committees and more powerful. Yes. I think that's a really good step in our right direction.
Well, you all are going to have Tom Kakadelis visiting you.
He's going to be on our public meeting. He's going to be a speaker in our public meeting. What's the date on that?
I'm looking for it right now. It's January, February.
Well, I've got, the point is I have the dates
February
here.
6th,
I got it from
Pete. Going to be the speaker.
And I want to come down and to that meeting, and I'm going to try to interview him for a podcast.
Well, if you're there, I'd like to introduce you and say a little bit about you too.
Also, where there's a 1st district meeting in Greenville tomorrow, and one of the guest speakers is going to be a young woman that comes from Elizabeth City. She went to Elizabeth City State and now works for Turning Point USA and runs their Raleigh operation. So she's going to be there. I'm going to get an interview with her, and then I'm going to talk to her about coming down and joining up with Tom Kakadelis at your event and try to make a big splash on this. Put a big splash on, because you know, if the Republican Party is to grow and flourish, we need all people involved.
Yeah.
And
Let me inject something here, if I may. Hal and I are Republicans, and many members of CCTA are, but that organization per se is nonpartisan. However, its mission statement, what it stands for and what it tries to do, is so well aligned with the Republican Party, they seem to go hand in glove many times.
Yeah, we had several Democrats at first, and they've all switched to Republicans, so now we can't brag about having a few Democrats.
Well, but you know, the point is that if you have to broaden your tent. Yeah. That was the thing about Donald Trump. He brought in all these disaffected people that had never been part of the Republican Party before, and he became a threat to the power structure. So I don't,
What the way he did it was fascinating to me.
Yeah,
he did what was best for everybody, particularly to do with economics, to do with opportunity. He didn't tell them; he showed them. Pick a demographic. Everybody had higher employment and up moving wages. It was, it couldn't have been any more graphic.
You know, we talked about expanding the type of people that we have in the party. You mentioned something like that along those lines. It reminds me that I like to hang out once in a while in a place called Manette's Grocery Store here. And I call it the Country Club because a lot of people like to hang out there. You got a big television and they sit around the table there and watch. And there was a Democrats that just about all are. The old folks, the salted earth that, you know, their families had been here for generations, and their dad and their granddaddy and all of them were Democrats, and so they're still Democrats. But you know how they vote? They had a Trump sign out in front of the grocery store. Yeah, and they do vote pretty much a very conservative line. So we don't want to, you know, put our noses in the air about people like that. They're welcome aboard.
What can we do to form an alliance with your organization and try to build upon you know, our messaging and our ability to, you know, you've got a radio program, we've got the podcast, the Real American News is a internet-based news platform for all sorts of things, and I wanted to find some way that we could tie in and provide some exchange of information that would be beneficial for both of us. So if you all are interested in doing that,
you yourself have hit on a really good starting point. The notion of coming down, interviewing Tom Kakadelis, bringing the young woman from Turning Point USA, working on that thing together. I think it'll naturally lead to conversations of other things that we can do. We're too well aligned for it not to work, almost
absolutely.
And Pete Benton is a good ambassador from one organization to the other, and we meet with Pete every Wednesday evening, just about. Now, occasionally he can't make it, but we do our radio show recordings on Wednesday evenings. Usually it's between 6 and 7 o'clock when we get started. It usually takes less than 2 hours to have it. It's an hour-long show, but we spend so much time during the intermissions talking with each other. It's kind of fun. We really do enjoy it. So I think in that regard, that would help. Raynor also writes a page for the County Compass newspaper. They have a distribution of about 20,000 in several counties. So that helps us. That's helped us expand and reach out. So I think all of us are trying to do that. Exactly what you're talking
I
about.
think we're forming an informal network of like-minded people who don't compete with each other but support each other. And that can go a long, long way.
Yeah. Did you hear about the Conservative Coalition?
I did. I was talking to Jim
Womack.
Womack.
Womack about that. Yes.
Yeah. Yeah.
You're part of that, aren't you?
Yes, we are. With a proviso. We told them that we were nonpartisan as an organization, and we wouldn't promote, on our website any particular candidate. We'd interview candidates, certainly, but we don't want to be placed in the position of saying that we only support one party over the other constantly. It's in our bylaws. I think it was wise to put it there that we're nonpartisan. Anybody's welcome to come.
But that coalition doesn't endorse individual candidates.
Right.
And just what I'm speaking from a personal point of view, they make good choices.
Yeah, give you another example is Mark Jones. Mark is the chairman of the party, Republican Party, out in Surrey County. He was a wildlife, I guess he still is, a wildlife officer, biologist, and he was the editor of their magazine for a long time. Just a really knowledgeable guy and as conservative as you could ever ask for. And he's reached out to a lot of people to try to get us contacts. But Raynor and I went out to Hendersonville to one of their meetings. That's where we met Mark Robinson. That was a thrill for all of us. Judge Newby was out there too. So we're trying to get some reach across the state. It's a little difficult to do, but
we're a long state.
That's right.
Yeah, if you don't believe it, just get in your car and see how much gas you get when you start.
Yeah, been there, done that.
We traded our Lincoln in for a Honda. That was one of the reasons.
Give
me your address that I need to come to for your function.
It's 249 Craven Street in New Bern. 249 Craven Street.
Okay.
In New Bern. That is an elevator entrance. It's a historic ballroom, beautiful room, but it's on the second floor. Now there is a stair entrance around the corner, but most of us prefer to be lifted up.
And we usually get there maybe a few minutes after 6 to get everything all set up. And Rick handles all of our, what would you say, microphones and things like that. Technical stuff. He's the man.
He's your tech guy.
Yeah. And the meeting actually starts at 7.
The rest of us put up tables and chairs and hand out water and things like that. But it's a great thing, I think, that we have. I want to tell you a little bit more about the radio show itself. We started off several years ago with a half-hour show, and it only last half hour and was only shown. It only played, pre-recorded on Wednesdays, like it still is, but aired on Sundays at 11 o'clock. Well, now we've expanded, and with the blessings of the radio station, it's an hour-long show now, and it airs 3 times a week. So, in that length of time, it's been several years, but we've got to be, I think, better at it and better received.
It's on 107.1 FM, the top station.
Oh yes, 107 point. I remember. Okay, 107.1. And that's from 7 p.m. till.
No, it airs Saturday morning at 6 a.m., Sunday morning at 11 a.m., and Sunday evening at 8 p.m.
And it doesn't have a huge reach. I could usually get it up to just before you get to Greenville. Anywhere that's close to the water, it bounces off the water. But as you go inland, you lose it fairly fast.
Yeah, it's
an hour's drive away, you're out of it.
It's funny, there's a blank space right at Kinston, and then you get a little pass there, and it comes in, clears the bell again for a while. It's unpredictable, except that the same pattern tends to hold one trip after another.
One thing that we can offer to you all is if you want to give us some content, you can write an article on a subject that you feel passionate about, or that you want to.
Hot button. She loves to write.
and
talk.
And we will put it. We'll put it in our news section where we've got printed matter for people to read, and then of course we have our podcast section.
John, if I did something that was used in the County Compass and also there, would that be acceptable to you?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. Of course, I worked with Jeff for a couple of years, and I really like him. He and his wife are wonderful people, and I've really enjoyed knowing them.
They've got a good technical staff too, and we've had problems with photographs or something like that now and then, and they've been really good at helping us get our part of the paper together.
The only thing I wanted to see Jeff, expand the paper, because there's a lot of people that really want to hear the conservative message, and you're not getting it with the mainstream news. But Jeff was hesitant to put the effort and the money into expanding the paper.
Well, I think part of it has been that with the restrictions the governor has put on through the COVID blanket, or whatever you want to call it, advertising money from small businesses has been pretty tight. And they don't charge for that paper, and all the revenue comes from advertisements. So there's a lot of advertisements in it. But I don't know anything about it. Really, I don't know what Jeff's finances are. He keeps that close hold, and I don't blame him a bit. But I do know, for instance, during part of this thing, the sponsors of our radio show were slow to honor the invoices that I sent. But on the other hand, I knew they were struggling, so I didn't try to collect them. I just let it pass. And as things have improved, then they've gotten back on board. So we try to anticipate there's some concerns like that here, especially among the small business. I think New Bern downtown has done a wonderful job of keeping this self-active. I mean, the tourists are in there. You can go down Middle Street on a Wednesday afternoon, the hard time finding a parking place. One of the things they did I thought was brilliant was on the weekends, they close off the main street there, it's Middle Street, and Craven too for several blocks, and they let the restaurants in there set up their tables out there and serve people out in the street. And when the weather's good, that was really, really popular thing to do.
Yeah, well, and as weather got cooler, they put up tents and outdoor heaters and that kind of thing. I don't think they're doing it now. It's gotten pretty darn cold. But
well, this whole thing, the response to the COVID situation has been terribly abused by all political leaders, some just worse than others. But when Gavin Newsom says it's time to, maybe we can lift the restrictions, damn well that they've gotten all the political mileage out of it that they can. So now they can go ahead and let up.
Well, the number of deaths were greatly exaggerated.
Yes, they were.
People have been killed in automobile accidents and motorcycle accidents who tested positive, who were listed as COVID deaths. And even with that, it is a very low percentage of people who are infected with it who die. So this is not like the Spanish flu in 1918, where more than 600,000 people died. Our population was much lower. It is manufactured to control us through fear.
That's
So
right.
when they insisted I put on a mask, here's what I put on.
I've got one that just says Trump, nothing else.
I'll just keep America great, Trump, and it's the flag kind of behind it, so it may be a little busy for the camera, but yeah.
Well, it's been a pleasure talking to you, and I look forward to seeing you down when I come down to for the Cacadelis event, and I'll look forward to
Look
seeing
forward to
you.
meeting you in person too.
Yes, John.